Welcome to the Mother May I podcast with Frank and Irene on Strong Island Entertainment. Gee, I hope I didn't make a mistake with these two. They promised me they'd bring in some really good guests. Well, anyway, here's Frank and Irene.
Welcome to Mother May I podcast with me, Irene Bremis, and Millie Conniff in the house. Millie.
Hey.
Oh my God. Frank, Millie just looked like she had a human face just then. I know that a lot of you, this is also a podcast. It's not only visual, but right now, Millie had like a human face. And if you want to see that human face, you have to go to our YouTube channel, subscribe, and like us, sweetie. Follow us.
She is the breakout star of the show, so we put her on whenever we can, whenever she happens to walk over to where I'm doing this. And there she is right now, a very rare treat.
A very rare tweet. We have to give her her camera opportunity. Look at that. Look at that face. I swear to God, she's a human stuck in a body. And aren't they though, Frank? Because they're angels. They're there for us.
They're great. And she's my role model because she sleeps all the time. So
she sleeps all the time and she eats all the time and she still helps you. You know, they talk about therapy dogs, but no one ever talks about therapy cats. Mr. Conniff.
Cats are total therapy animals, and any cat owner will tell you that.
And I think they're actually low maintenance. I've had a cat and I've had a dog, and quite frankly, cats I feel are very intuitive. They're able to really read your feelings when you're feeling bad.
Yeah, I mean, dogs are great too. I'm not going to put down.
No, I love dogs. I do, but they need a little more attention. It's a little bit about them. You know what I mean?
It is, and but those of us who have cats, we can tell you how great they are.
They're great, Frank. I'm upset to see that once a goddamn again, Mr. Conniff, the brilliant mind of Mr. Conniff, has been banned from Facebook. What's going on?
I published a joke, as I am wont to do, on Facebook. It was about our media. I said that if any of the Sunday morning talk show hosts or cable news hosts, if any of them ever interviewed Hitler, they wouldn't hesitate to look him in the eye and say, "Thanks for joining us. We really appreciate your time," which is what they say to the fascists from the Trump. The Republican fascists, they say that to them all the time.
Absolutely. Think about all the people. Yeah.
I got the idea for that joke. And I think because I mentioned Hitler, Facebook banned me. And now I'm very much in danger of it being a permanent ban now. So
this is because they have bots and they're just banning, but you're telling the truth.
It's an artificial intelligence that bans you. It's not a person. That's what someone told me, and it makes sense to me because I think any reasonable person would see that it's not hate speech. It is hate speech. It's hatred towards
hating assholes.
Corporate media.
That's right.
Yeah, you know, but that should be allowed. And so now, I think it's appropriate that we have Ronnie Marmo, who plays Lenny Bruce, because now that I've been banned from Facebook, obviously I'm the Lenny Bruce of our age. I am a martyr for free speech.
You are a martyr for free speech. And let me tell you something before we bring our guests on in 1 second. I just want to say, Frank, I smell a book. It's called Fuck You Facebook. And it's all the tweets you've ever been banned on, all your banned tweets from Facebook. Please, I want to see this.
That could happen, but I can't promote it on Facebook though, because I'll be banned.
Yeah, you're going to be banned from Facebook. You can't promote it on Instagram because they bought Facebook, but you can do it on Twitter. Hey, guys, guess what? We have an awesome guest here today. I love this woman. She's an extraordinary comic. She's a mom. I thought she was 20 years old. Apparently she's not. She has her own show called See You Next Tuesday, and she hums another podcast, We're Not Okay, amongst other things, an author, a mother, a freaking comic. Let's give it up for Periel Aschenbrand, everybody. I hope I pronounced that right.
You did. Hi.
Hey, sweetheart. How are you?
Yeah.
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming back. I think Frank's suggestion.
Last week was our formal introduction, which we only did. We had technical problems, but the whole point was so that we could meet. So that was
nice.
Now we can have a real show.
Now we have an actual show.
Nice. I thought you did that with all your guests.
We should tell you that we do. It's a ritual.
We wanted to get you on twice, Periel. This is how it works. So Periel, you are doing so much. You have a show, and the thing I tweeted, remember when I chimed in, it's because your show is called See You Next Tuesday, which I've always loved. In fact, that's how I end this show, See You Next Tuesday. But Yamanika Saunders and I did a show years ago, years ago, like I want to say like 15 years ago, called See You Next Tuesday. When I saw it, it just kept I just got like a nostalgic love. It reminded me of the times when, I don't know, pre-COVID 10 years ago, when comics were just always together doing work and just always together and doing spots. So how does it feel to be back in the world, sweetie, doing stand-up live?
It feels amazing. I didn't know that's so cool that you guys had a show called that. I really just wanted to be able to say the word cunt over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really think through that having a show on a Tuesday night might not be the easiest thing in the world to do.
How's it been with when you're running the show? Has it been pretty cool in terms of I'm sure the crowds are coming in, right? People must miss live entertainment.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a reason why Tuesday night is not the most popular night to do shows.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's not. I was like, maybe can we say see you next Thursday and still keep that tea? The crowds have been great. I mean, I think it takes a minute to build a show. Tuesday night is not the easiest night, but the crowds, I mean, it's growing, and the comics are amazing. You guys obviously have an open invitation.
Where do you do this show?
At Stand Up.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Great. That's great. You know what? You've had some really good comics on. I know Tuesday's hard. Look at this show. It's in the shitter, daytime TV. I was going to wear this without the shirt, but I think it's too much for daytime TV. No one's ready for like a full-on wrap during the day. So, Tuesday has been hard, but you know what, Periel, I've always loved it. I was going to call you. I was talking about tits, so then I went into Ebola. I'm sorry about that.
I saw a picture of you on Instagram wearing that without something underneath, and I thought you'd be wearing that now too. So I was excited to.
Oh, you're so sweet. Women hashtag women supporting women. So listen, I've been
Irene. When it comes to your breasts, the daytime show I want to evoke is The View.
Conniff is very quick. I gotta tell you, so you gotta be on guard, sweetie. I was, I'm not only impressed. I did. We're Not Okay with Jen. Right. You just manning and helming that whole ship is a lot. But also, I was really impressed to see that you've also authored a few books, which is like amazing.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, incredible. And I just want to know, so when did you find the time to write this? Was this done over COVID? I didn't really look at the times that you actually put them out. Mr. Conniff is also an accomplished author himself, so I'm the only one that's just completely inept at it.
I don't know that those things are mutually exclusive. I think
my books are out there to prove how inept I am.
Right, exactly. Exactly. I think that you can probably be inept and also be an author. My last book came out about 8 years ago.
Nice.
So I had a kid in between then and now. So it's been
So you had a baby and you had time. Now I feel really.
No, I didn't have time.
Oh, okay.
I had time before I had a baby.
Oh, right. When you were pregnant?
Well, I was not planning on being pregnant when the book came out. It was a little bit of, and not a planned thing. So I was like really hot on the cover and invited to do all this press. And then people were expecting this sort of sexy girl to show up. And then I showed up looking like I ate myself.
So it's weird. The baby was unplanned. I thought for a second there the book was unplanned, but that
the book was planned. Yes, the baby was not planned. My husband was like, "Let's, we should start trying," and I was like, "Yeah, I mean, it'll take forever. I mean," and then the first time we tried, I got pregnant.
Wow.
Oh, now you're just bragging, bitch.
No, I wasn't. It fucked up my whole book plan.
See, here's the thing. I get just a little jealous when I see tampons sticking out of somebody's pocket, or they're like, "I'm bleeding." I'm like, "You're bragging." It's a lot when you get to a certain point. But
I assume when I'm around people with kids and they look at me without the kids that I'm the object of their jealousy.
Right. There's something to that.
Mm.
There is something to that. So you have your child now. How old is your son? I wanted to talk a little bit about you being a mom during this whole time. He's
7.5.
Wow, 7.5. Jeez.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So we made it to 7. I always feel like if I had a kid, I used to have like these terrible nightmares that I don't have any children, but I've always had these terrible nightmares that if I did have a baby, I'd forget it in the drawer. I've had these nightmares waking up and the baby was crying and I couldn't find it and it was in a drawer. And I feel like it's a huge, even make it to 7. You know what I mean? When it's your first child, because there's so much to be done, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's insane.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I think there are some people who like were planning on getting married and having a bunch of kids and, we're sort of born into that role. I think that, for people like us, it's a little bit more challenging.
That's right. Because you have to balance everything that we're doing, which is a lot, And
well, I think, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I just think that there's something like inherently self-centered or narcissistic, not in, necessarily, not in a bad way. I'm not obsessed with myself in a bad way, about doing what we do. And so, it's challenging to be able to like refocus all that. Like if you actually want to take care of your kid and not just like let it grow up by itself.
Right. Yeah. I can see that. If I had a baby, I think when I heard it on the baby monitor, I would be jealous that it already had a podcast.
And a podcast that everybody runs to.
Right.
Yes,
exactly.
A very successful podcast. No, it is, it does take, we have friends, I have a lot of friends, Rachel being one of them, of course, we just recently had a baby, and you do have to like kind of maneuver. And again, I don't have any kids, but I see how you have to do a lot of juggling. I just had, like the baby, they had a baby party here at the house, and I saw Jessica with her 3 kids, and I'm like, how do they do it? You know what I mean?
Crazy.
It is
crazy.
It's a lot.
I think that, I don't know. I mean, I always wanted to be a comic and work in comedy. And I think that, you make sacrifices to do the thing that you love and like figure it out, right?
Yeah, right. If he's 7 years old and he's at home cooking his own dinner, a latchkey kid, you know what? Fuck it. All right. You're out doing a spot. That's very goddamn important, sweetie.
Totally.
I know. I feel you.
Isn't there also like a thing in society where like if you have a kid and you imply in the least bit that the kid isn't always a priority to you. In other words, like you might take a gig even though you'd be away from your kid. Like you'll be like berated by people because
You're right.
Yeah.
And I think that's unfair. I think it's great that people are devoted to their family, but I think there has to be a balance, and I think it's okay for a parent to say, this is important to me too,
Yeah.
So here's $20 for therapy when you grow up. I'm going to go do this gig,
Well, listen, I think that, nobody asked to be born, right? So I definitely.
Not me. Go
right,
on.
exactly. So, I started doing stand-up later in my life. And because I had a kid, I wasn't able to go do 4 spots a night at like, clubs all over the city. and running around until 1 o'clock in the morning. So like, I really had to figure out like how I was going to do this and still be able to like wake up and take him to school and be like a mom in like a real way.
Wow, that's amazing. You know what, Frank, you always hit on something really insightful, even though you're not getting your period and you don't have children, you don't have Millie. You know, you're more of a woman than I'll ever be. Okay, because he hit on something very, very important that I hear from my friends that are comics that have children. It's this insatiable amount of guilt, and it's like, because you feel like people are judging you when you do take a gig and you have to balance you're away from your child for, but what women,
not the men,
right? Just the women, exactly.
Right.
And I do think it's unfair, and it's a very good point, Frank, because this is a real challenge for women, you know, the guilt that goes along with just being put under the microscope, like you're a bad mother if you're taking a show or you're doing a gig, when in fact, I think it's such a positive role model to show your daughter or son that you're still working and you can balance and do both. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Also, I think if you completely bury your dreams on behalf of your kid, you're going to resent the kid, and that's going to lead to bad things happening in the parent-child relationship too. You know, I think parents have to be fulfilled themselves. If they're just at home resenting that they didn't get to go out and do something because of their kid, you know, that's going to end up being bad news too.
That's absolutely right, Frank. There's going to be that like resentment, and kids are very perceptive. They're going to pick up on that, just like my mother. You know what I mean? She knows how much I resent her.
I mean, nobody's saying to Jim Gaffigan, oh my God, how do you manage to balance a career and 5 kids?
Very good point, sweetie. Very good point. No one is judging Jim Gaffigan, you know, but they do judge the women, you know? And so we have to get out there and do spots. I love the word spots. It always seems like the last, you know, that's almost like the you know, when your eggs dried up and it's the last leg you're standing on. I love that the name spots is also when a woman spots and she's at the very end of any sort of like fertility or whatever. But
it's a good name for a show, Spotting.
It totally is. You and I, baby. Next one, okay? We got
I'm in.
Sir. We're in. So it is important though, as a comic, to get up and work your craft. Now, when did you start doing stand-up? Because actually I just met you recently. And
I probably started doing stand-up like 3 years ago.
Oh, wow.
I'd always been writing. You know, my books are, you know, comedic memoirs or whatever the fuck you want to call them.
Yeah.
But I really, maybe 3.5 years ago, because
and then COVID. So it's actually 2 years ago. I'm just kidding. Yeah.
No, you're right. I mean, it's true. And you know, I will probably say this forever. Like, I'm just happy to be in the room. You know, like I took like a very non-traditional path to this, or I came to it very late, but it was really the only thing that I ever was like just obsessed with.
Right. And you know what you do? You're going to start chasing the dragon. That's what happens with stand-up if it's really in your blood. You know, I don't think there is any such thing as late. You know what I mean? I think that when you do it, you're bringing your whole experience to the table, you know, and I love the fact that you still love being in the room, whereas I complain the whole time. You know what I mean? I complain to the gig. I complain on the way back from the gig. Then I tweet about my complaints. I post a video about my complaints. So, you know, there's this like gratitude that I wish I could actually get back, because, you know, gratitude opens the door for other things. And I think it's important.
I definitely feel that like all the time, even when stuff is annoying, because, you know, I mean, it was a very conscious decision for me to stop doing all of the other things that I was doing, because I never had, I mean, I'm not qualified to have like a real job in like any capacity, but you know, all of the other jobs that I had, I was like, okay, I need to really focus on this, or I'm never going to forgive myself, you know?
Right. Yeah, you got to go for it one way or the other, you know?
Yeah. And now I'm like, what was I thinking?
I think Frank has gratitude. I think I was bitching one day to Frank after John's show about something. I have numerous things to bitch about. And then Frank just said to me, you know what, Irene? He said, I'm just really happy to still be doing this. Like, there's gratitude, you know? And I'm like, you know, Frank is so right. Like, why do we always have to look? We put so much pressure on ourselves. Like, we have to get this, we have to get that, we have to get this, when we have to get that. If you're not enjoying what you're doing, then how are you going to enjoy those other things? If you're already.
I remember I said that to you at the time because I really enjoy shaming you. It gave me pleasure, so I said that.
God, no, Frank, you have never. You're the sweetest man on the fucking planet. No shaming. You actually, you made me feel better because I do think that there's pressure, and then I don't even have kids or a pet, so I feel like a triple fucking twat for complaining. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's, you know, if we can always, you know, that attitude of like, I shouldn't complain, I should be grateful, is great, and there's so much truth to it. But being human as we are, it's like sometimes it's just impossible to achieve that, you know. And I think it might even be healthy to complain and to bitch and just, you know, let yourself feel shitty about something and get it out of your system, and then maybe you'll feel better the next day or something, you know.
That's right. Actually, that's true, and that's why I'm gonna feel like shit about
people who are like, oh, I'm just grateful, I'm happy all the time. I don't, I'm like, fuck you. I don't want to.
Seriously, fuck you. You're Stepfordized to the world. Screw you. Okay. Because then that makes us feel like there's something wrong with us too, you know?
Right, yeah.
It does make us fun. This is like, I wore the colors for Gay Pride. We're kicking off Gay Pride today, and I started watching Selena. Do you guys see that on Netflix? Anybody? Just me?
I've seen the movie, the Jennifer Lopez movie, right?
Yeah.
Is that I saw, and I haven't seen the series. I know that our friend Jorge, who worked on the John Fury, he's an obsessive Selena fan.
He's an obsessive Selena fan.
So I'm happy for him that show is on, because I know he loves Selena so much.
It's so true, Frank. And as I was watching it last night, I'm binge watching the series, and it's kind of slow, but her story is so unbelievable, and she was so multi-talented. She wanted to be a designer. She did. She had her own line of clothing, and I always think about Jorge, and I was going to text him, but it got me to thinking, you know, I also wanted to be a designer before I started doing stand-up. I went to fashion design school, and I think I might have had a calling there. Designed bathing suits, would rip up clothes when I was a child, and then I went into stand-up, you know. So this is what I tell myself. I could have been a famous designer. This way I have like an imaginary fucking plan.
Well, speaking of that, you know what was kind of, did you see the Halston series on Netflix?
Yes, I'm watching it. It's amazing.
Oh, I gotta see that.
I watched it because Ewan McGregor is the star, and he's great, you know.
I'm watching it right now. It is amazing.
I'm writing it down.
Yeah.
Wow, I have to watch it.
I think it's like 5 episodes, maybe.
It's so crazy. I mean, I used to have a t-shirt company, and like I worked in like design.
What?
Yeah, I worked in like design and branding and creative direction and events, which is why like I've just transferred all of that knowledge into anything comedy related.
You need that knowledge, Periel. You know you do. Branding is everything.
Apparently. I mean, but you know, it was interesting and it was really fun, but it was never, and I like doing it and I'm good at it, but it was never like my love the way that comedy is. But so I worked, you know, very tangentially, but a lot in like the fashion world, and I love fashion too, but this is so much more interesting.
Right.
I mean, it's.
But when I say everything is a business now, when I say I like fashion, I was designing swimsuits. I was designing clothes from very young. I was rip up. I still do. I make clothes, my own clothes all the time. There's something about creating, which I think is parallel to actually going out and doing stand up, because we're creating something. I was telling Frank and we were talking about this. One of my favorite things about doing stand up is not, you know, I get annoyed with the travel. I get annoyed with the pay. I get annoyed with a lot of shit, the politics in stand up. But the one thing that I missed tremendously during COVID was getting up and trying new material. You know what I mean? Which is
Yeah.
right, Frank. I mean, I think you're a very prolific writer, and I can't bust out 5 books. You know what I mean? Like you can. Every time I mention that I'm going to write a book, like the last time I told Frank, you know what, I think let's work on a screenplay, and he had a book out. Like a week later, there was a book already published.
There's a book about you and I writing that screenplay.
Which I'm still working on. It's so terrible. Anyway, I'll never let it go, sweetie. I'm chasing the dragon. But it's I think even the fact that you were immersed in that world, you were able to take all of that and bring it into stand-up now, because branding is everything, you know. I mean, it really is, you know. My problem is I'm branded a whore, so we need to find something a little bit more mainstream.
Well, that's what people were telling me about this show I do on Tuesday nights. They were like, maybe you might want to change the name of it because it'll be like easier to promote it. And like, I'm like, no.
Yeah, good for you.
You know, once something becomes popular, then it becomes the brand. You know, that's the thing.
Right. I'm like, I'd rather have 3 people show up than not call it the cunt show.
Yeah, right. I love you for that. I'm hardcore digging in. It's held me back a little bit in this business. It has, you know, because I refuse to censor myself. I think the 3 of us can say we refuse to censor ourselves, but it's like, how are you going to do stand-up if it's not you? You know what I mean?
Right.
If you're not being yourself, I think
there's room for every voice in stand-up too, I think, you know.
That's right.
I think anyone who's genuinely funny, who, if you combine that with doing the comedy that's your own voice, that's like unbeatable. But I think even someone who's talented, who's just decides, oh, I'm going to do the hacky stuff that seems popular, you know, I'm going to go up and talk about, you know, drive-through windows and airline food, or, you know, the difference between New York and LA, like all these premises. You know, I'm talking 80s premises here. It shows how old.
Those are 3 of my jokes, Frank.
But you know, then you're even if you're talented, your act's not going to be that good. You know, if you're generic and trying to follow the trend of what people are doing. All of the really good comedians are completely their own voice and just, you know, reveal their personalities on stage. It's an essential element to it.
It is. Finding your own voice, very, very important, and breaking out and being unique. And it's not easy when you're all doing the same goddamn material, you know. And the biggest thing, when you look at all the biggest comics out there, you know, and I'm just going to go with women, like Amy Schumer is one, right? Obviously, it's taking risks and not being afraid. You have to have like this level of intrepidity to get up on stage and say, you know what? I don't give a fuck. You have to take risks, you know? So anyway, we're running out of the half hour. This went by so fast, Periel.
Thank you for having me.
You are so sweet. Thank you for being here, my dear. So let's talk a little bit about what you're pushing, any pipeline projects that you have or anything you'd like to promote.
Well, this show tonight at Stand Up New York, see you next Tuesday, comedy show. We always have a revolving door of really amazing talent. It's a really, really fun show, and it's such a thrill to do it. And that I'm working on a couple of other things, but they're not ready, you know, for public consumption yet. And I produce We're Not Okay comedy show with Rachel Feinstein and Jessica Curson on Sundays on Zoom, which we started during the pandemic.
So fun. I so enjoyed doing that show, and it was so goddamn fun. And I love those.
They're amazing. They're amazing.
Yes, they are.
And yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Periel Aschenbrand.
Oh, thanks for coming, sweetie.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for having me, guys. Thank you.
Bye, sweetie.
Bye.
Thank you. Awesome. Mr. Conniff, you're a dream. You know that? Look who we didn't even have time to introduce our next guest. He's only the greatest guy alive. He portrayed Lenny Bruce off-Broadway, and he's an extraordinary actor. He's one of our close friends, and we love him, Mr. Ronnie Marmo, everybody.
Hey,
hey, Frank.
Good to see you.
Good to see you, buddy. It was so funny. I'm watching your show, and I'm down this rabbit hole like this watching, and I'm like, I gotta log on.
Tom, rabbit hole. What's going on, sweetie? I don't like to hear this.
Well, the rabbit hole, it was a healthy one. I really got caught up in that conversation. First of all, she's awesome. But I got caught up in the conversation about only women have to deal with schedules and show business and children. Because that, if you want to talk about that, we could take 2 hours.
No, let's talk about that, because we really shat on the men, but you're not a comic, you're an actor. You have a beautiful freaking daughter, man.
Thank you.
Just on a vacuous level, she is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. But so tell us, as a dad.
So first of all, of course, I'm not going to disagree. Publicly, you're probably right on. Women have to deal with, that public shaming way more than guys. But behind the scenes, I have a 29-year-old daughter and a 13-year-old daughter. And boy, is that absolutely unequivocally my everyday stress and struggle. And what Frank said was brilliant, because the truth is, when my daughter, my 29-year-old, when she was young, I had booked, I guess it was the summer of '98, I booked Tony and Tina's wedding, the national tour. It was my first job. And
I love that.
But I had to make a decision. Am I going to take it? Or am I going to resent my kid the rest of my life?
Mm-hmm.
And that was, Frank, what you said was real, man. I was like struggling. So I decided to take the job, and I would have my girlfriend at the time fly everywhere with her, every city. Mm-hmm. And so there was that. And then when I got to Houston, a good friend of mine who was famous at the time, she said, "You want to come try in LA instead of going back to Jersey and working in a pizza shop?" And I said, "Yeah, I do. I want to try." Mm-hmm. And I had to make that decision.
Right.
And then the flying back and forth, and now my daughter's 13, and you go, okay, what did I learn? And so now I'm flying back and forth to New York and Chicago doing Lenny, and I'm commuting every week.
That's amazing. Well, Frank, had a point, but do you feel like that same seething judgment that women get, like from other people, because women are harshly judged?
Only in the family. I don't get it publicly. That's what I mean. That's why I have no argument with what your guest said, because I'm saying, like, behind the scenes, but it's my absolute struggle and consideration every day, all day. I book shows around it. And you know what the truth is? My daughter's 13. She doesn't even notice if I'm here or not. So she really doesn't. So what I hope is I'm putting it in the bank, and one day she goes, "You know what? I saw that. I saw you coming back and forth. I saw all that." So anyway, when you said that, I was all worked up. Anyway,
that's crazy. I didn't know you had a 30-year-old daughter. That's nuts.
Yeah.
29. Yes, I was a young man, and it was what? You're what? It was one of those, and we're having a baby. So I was a kid, And,
wow.
But she's amazing. I brought her out here when she was 9. Got full custody of her, and when she was 9, and she came out to LA and raised her out here, and she's 29. So
wow, that's amazing.
Awesome.
So, well, actually, this is very timely for Frank, because Frank, you want to tell the story about Facebook?
Oh, well, we were
How you were
talking before, and
listen to this
I'm banned from Facebook now, just for a joke I made. So knowing that you're coming on the show, I said, the fact that I'm banned from Facebook, this makes me the Lenny Bruce of the modern age. I am a martyr for free speech, just like Lenny Bruce. No difference between either of us.
There's Lenny.
There he is. I love it. I love it. So how's it been, Ronnie? So you're still touring, doing Lenny Bruce, the play. I think I saw it. I hold the world's record for seeing it, I think.
Well, honestly,
I saw it 5 times.
Well, that's amazing. Thank you for that. There have been others who saw a few more, but you're right up there. You're right up there. Outside of my girlfriend, you are probably the most female, female.
The most female.
You hold that record.
Well, I'm somewhat female, but yes, thank you for that.
You're welcome. I just wanted to remind you of that. I haven't done the show in a year and a half. So I'm going crazy.
Right, you're going nuts.
I've been sitting here.
Are they going to bring it back? Is it on schedule to come back yet?
Yeah, we're 95% locked in to reopen in Chicago in October. Because I don't know if you guys had known, but when I left New York, I went to Chicago and did 85 performance, 6-month run, selling out every night, huge hit. And then on March 15th, I was like, there were, that whole weekend, there were a dozen people in the audience. Everybody had masks on. It was so weird. And I was like, I got to get the hell out of here. So I just got on a plane.
Right.
And I said, I'll see you in a few weeks.
It's weird. Like imagine doing a show, Frank, with masks on in the audience, just this no laughter, just the seething eyes of judgment. It doesn't feel fun to watch.
That would be work for me, because then I could blame it on the masks why I'm not hearing any laughs.
That's very funny. Well, what happened is I can't see past the front row, and no one sat in the front row. So it felt like I was back in tech. And so I didn't get any response. It was the weirdest thing. I'm like, is anybody, it was really awkward. And so, but the show is not a barrel of laughs. It's everything, right? It's funny.
Right.
It's a tragic. But I can't wait to get back. There's also talk about, I signed with this company called Columbia Artists, and they're setting up a national tour, which is amazing. And my show is kind of perfect because it's one person, one tech person, low drama.
You can socially distance in the play. It's nice.
Yeah, it's amazing how you can do that. Except for, do you still have Lenny's Love It? Wait, what was Lenny's Honey? Is she still in there?
No, I tried that as as an experiment. It didn't work. I don't need that.
Really? Oh, that makes Frank very happy, because he thought Honey was a honey, right, sweetie?
He was a delight. You were on your old podcast, remember?
Yeah,
When Ronnie was there, I was all in person too.
It was distracting. It was distracting. It wasn't necessary. I like the idea of like this thing, but it wasn't necessary. So it just felt really good with doing it at the box downtown. The vibe was it felt like it worked.
I loved it. I saw it there. I came with Owner, remember? And I saw it there, and I absolutely loved it. So you're gonna. It's good to see that during COVID, in the absence of doing Lenny, you've been staying busy. You have an acting class that I'm very interested in. I love that the title is very direct. I love it. The name of your acting class, Stop Fucking Acting. I love it. So tell us about that. That's like a Frank Conniff title.
Well,
I've always stopped fucking acting.
Nobody wants to watch acting. It's a bad idea. So my class is a lot of me going, I'm spotting acting. Stop it. Cut it out. Like, there's a lot of that shit that goes on. And to be honest, I started this class a year ago, about 2 weeks ago. It was a year. And I started as a fundraiser for the theater company. And I was like, well, I can never sit still long enough to have an in-person class, but people are doing shit on Zoom. My theater group's on Zoom, Theater 60. Let me try it. And it's a year later. I have 2 classes on Wednesday and Thursday, and about a dozen students in each. It's fantastic. And now I can't imagine my life without it, And but Stop Fucking Acting kind of sums it up for me.
It does. I love it. Now tell me, can you give me a couple of hits? I'm probably going to take your class because I could use some help. I am going to take it. I'm telling you. I want to know, like, how can you tell when somebody's fucking acting? Give us an example.
Well, it's easy. It's it's when they go from the truth into a performance, and it's a very interesting. Like even in comedy, right? When you go for the laugh, you don't get it, right? It's got to be truth and authentic. Sure. It's the same thing in performance acting.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah. It's finding the truth. I don't even know why they call it acting. It should be called living or being. I fucking hate acting. I hate the name acting.
Well, all of my favorite actors. Whether it's Spencer Tracy or George C. Scott, like you never see them acting. You just forget about you just think you're watching someone in their life. You never have a moment with a great actor where you're like, oh, look at that. That's such great acting right there. What he's doing right now. Like you never think about that. You're just accepting that he's the person that he's playing.
Listen, you guys saw my show. It's a 90-minute monologue. If I have any false notes, boy, is it going to go bad. So I literally just, I give myself over to it. It's like, so, it's.
Right.
But whenever I start schmacking, I literally yell at myself, stop it, cut it out. What are you doing?
Right. And I think it is a hard thing to do, but it's so true. You just have to have your truth, and it can come out in different ways. I've seen it in acting. Like it comes out like in just, posturing or affectations or your inflections. It comes out in different ways. So do you think it's like anxiety, like being self-conscious? Like how does somebody kind of like work through that?
Well, there's a lot of ways. I mean, the truth is if I said to you, like, I have been authentic 100% of the time when I'm on stage. That's bullshit. Of course I haven't. But what you do is you work on your craft so much that you could quickly either fake it or get back to the truth. So there, you just have to, it's a muscle. It takes work. There's very few people on the planet like Robin Williams was. Very few of those people that are just the best. Or Spencer Tracy, just what a great actor.
Yeah.
But usually you have to work on that to get better. It just is what it is. And then hopefully you get back to the truth quicker than you would in the past and just keep working. Look, it's imperfect, but it's that's the challenge that I love, is that it's not easy,
It's not easy. And some actors really have their work cut out for them when they have like a shitty script. I've seen that too. Like a terrible goddamn script and they're trying to work through it.
Well, I don't want to
for an actor, like, I think most of your acting life is going to be taking weak material and making it better, right? Like the really great scripts are few and far between. For a working actor, most of the time you're going to be in some mundane thing that's not written that well. And what a lot of my favorite actors do all the time is they take the weak material and they make it worth watching. They make it better.
Sure. I would say if you had to do a percentage, the majority of my work has been like, scripts that I had to find a place within me to make it authentic and good.
Right.
Every blue moon you get something, you go, wow, this is written well. And then when that happens, you memorize it like this. It's the weirdest thing. But generally, if you have a hard time memorizing, it's because the line, it's just, I don't know. You're right, Frank, but that's
but sometimes the line seems so unnatural. So I've always been a big fan of being able to like make it your own. I mean, yeah, you have to stick to script, but at the same time, if a line seems unnatural or a word, I mean, how do you feel about that when somebody just sort of adapts their own speech into it or their own feeling into it?
Well, it depends if I'm the writer or not.
Right, exactly.
I write quite a bit. So when somebody's lazy, then I say, listen, try the lines, try it every way you can, and then come to me. But don't take the easy way out on day one. Let's try to make these words work. So I really believe like you give the writer the first shot. And I try my best. But once I've given the first shot to the writer, I'll go to them and say, look, I'm having a hard time putting this in my mouth. Would you mind if I adjust? But I don't take the liberty without asking.
Right.
Everybody's got a job to do.
And God knows you've done a lot of acting. You're not in something with Ray Romano, are you? I'm asking you right now. Oh, okay. Because Jennifer Esposito is in a film with Ray Romano, and she said she was in a car with a bunch of comics, and she texted me. It was that guy Sebastian, whatever his name is, and she said, and that guy that I met through you at his show, and I thought it was you.
That makes sense.
It should be you.
Damn it.
Should be you, damn it. Are you still auditioning? Are you trying to?
I'm doing great. I just did 4 straight beautiful projects in a row. I was on the East Coast for a month. Again, so what did I do with my daughter? I asked her, would you like to come to New Jersey halfway through my trip? And she said,
no one wants to go to New Jersey. You can't ask her. You just have to kidnap her, sweetie.
Well, she's in LA, so she came. She doesn't know any better. But I'm kidding. I love Jersey.
Bayonne is delicious. You'll love it. Okay.
Bayonne, Hoboken. So she came out for 5 days, and I shot 4 straight projects. I directed something in Philadelphia, a very funny mob comedy, and
nice.
And so it was funny. And then I did a couple other cool pilots, and I got to geek out and do my very first. Some guy calls me, a friend of mine. He says, "Hey, you want to be in a 1980s heavy metal group music video?" I said, "Are you kidding? It's my dream. You know, I'm a total metalhead." So I was like, got to be in a music video.
Oh, that's
and there's the band called Noose, NUSC. So it's been great. I've been very blessed. I sat here for a year, and then I got really busy the last 3 months. And, you know, I'm always working.
I mean, come on, Ronnie, you need a little bit of, I didn't even know how you kept your schedule up, honestly, because your shows were like, how long was Lenny? It was like 2 hours? How long is it?
Yeah, about 90 minutes. It depends how interesting I thought I was any given evening. You know what I mean? I tried not to make, because I would take a couple liberties. I wrote it, so I'm like, fuck it.
I'll do what feels good. And you were doing that straight, multiple shows a night, or like a couple of shows at least a night, right? And it was, it's a lot.
It's a lot. Saturday and Sundays, I would do 2 shows. It's overwhelming, you know. I have good news, though. Talk about New Jersey. There's a chance I'll be opening in Count Basie Theater in Red Bank, which is beautiful. It's a gorgeous spot. and I might be doing that late September. I'll let you guys know. It'll be 2
Okay,
weeks.
I smell a number 6 and a number 2 for Frank. Let's go, Frank.
Frank,
Is what? Because
Maybe not number 2.
what do you mean? In New Jersey smells like number 2? Okay.
I knew.
only on the turnpike between exits 11 and 14.
I'll tell you what smells like number 2, fucking Bayonne. Avoid it at all costs. Even if you don't have to wear the mask, you should be wearing it driving past Bayonne. But I think it's really cool that you're continuing to do this because, you know, as Frank was saying, you know, it's so important, you know, to continue having that voice, Lenny Bruce's voice, you know, especially with how things are just, you know, censorship is become like, and it's not even just like hate speech. We want to ban hate speech, okay? But it's misconstruing and like what happened to Frank. Obviously, Frank got banned from Facebook for saying something against, you know, big corporate people, you know, and then he's banned because they pulled a word, you know what I mean? So I think it's important for us.
I wasn't banned for speaking truth to power.
Yeah, exactly.
I was banned because a robot saw the word Hitler and just interpreted that as hate speech.
That's the subtitled version of what I was trying to say. Thank you, Frank, for saving me.
Frank puts it nice and simple. Yeah.
Very simple.
I
think it's funny that everyone talks about cancel culture now, and you know who suffered more from cancel culture than Lenny Bruce. I mean,
yeah, he certainly
guy that literally wasn't allowed to work. You know, all these people now complain, "Oh, I've been canceled." They're still working. You know, they just thrown off one platform or something.
That's right.
Lenny Bruce literally had his livelihood taken away from him.
He has, right?
It's a crazy time with this, especially with the show, because what I find interesting, Frank, is that the very people Lenny Bruce was defending in the 50s and 60s are the people I'm trying to explain him to now.
Right.
It is switched. So you understand? So it's the weirdest thing. It's like these, you know, because look, I find myself in the middle. I see anyway, but with the cancel culture is too much. It's too much. It's like, I don't know, with Lenny, to give you an example, you know, obviously I do the N-word bit.
Right.
Okay. But I haven't done the show since what happened with George Floyd. And so there's a lot of discussion whether I should continue to do the bit when I come back and do the show.
Right.
And so it's been something that's weighing on my heart because, of course, I believed in what Lenny was trying to do, take the power out of the words. He was trying to say, let's not give it so much power, all this. But I also would be a complete schmuck if I was tone deaf to what's going on in our world right now. So it's a funny balance. It's like, I know that I'm taking people back to the 50s and 60s with Lenny. And so I know I'm giving them like a moment in time in history. But a lot of people can't even understand that that's what's happening.
People don't. The problem is people don't understand context. They don't understand.
Context is everything. That's right.
Context is everything. And then if you use the N-word, it's like, what is the context of your use of it? And that's, you know, that's the key to it. But a lot of people now, they don't even understand the concept of context.
It's almost like they're a bunch of fucking robots on Facebook, right, Frank? It's like
exactly.
But to tell you the truth, honestly, like I don't take that lightly because as a white guy, it's not my word. I have no business. I haven't earned that word. That word, it comes with a lot of history that like I'm not naive to that. The struggle is that I'm playing Lenny Bruce and he had really great intention. Do I think Lenny would do that bit today? Honestly, probably not.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree. He wouldn't.
I feel like Lenny would find another way to communicate that point.
Absolutely, because he evolved. He was an evolved human being. We can just by his entire existence and everything that we know about him, we know that he would have evolved.
Yeah, I agree. And just to be clear, like I don't use that word or think it's cool, but I'm struggling because I want to give people the full experience of Lenny Bruce back then. And so it's a decision I need to make, and I haven't yet. You know.
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough one, but it's like Frank said, everything is context, you know, and if anybody was canceled, Frank, you're right again, it was Lenny Bruce. Even iconic people, cancel cultured people like Jane Fonda, they're back and swinging. Just,
Jane Fonda,
Jane was my hero.
She's awesome. And she luckily, you know, unlike Lenny, she lived long enough for things to
exactly.
turn around.
You're right.
You know, whereas if Lenny had lived, I mean, that's what I think is such a shame about him dying so young. If he had lived, I think it all would have turned around from him. He would have been, by the time the 70s came along, he would have been celebrated, as the pioneer that he was. But he didn't live long enough to see the world change enough for that to happen.
Well, the Summer of Love, like he died in '66, and I think like all that time, you're right, Frank, because I think he would have really. I think he was a big part of the reason that all came to be.
Right.
And he never got to enjoy the fruits of that. I also think if he lived much longer, there wouldn't be a play about him. So there's that. So,
so you wouldn't be working. So there's that, sweetie.
Yeah.
Right?
Thank you, Lenny. Thank you. No, listen, it's such an honor to think that I'm now synonymous with Lenny Bruce telling his story. And in some ways, not to get too hokey, but like, I feel like I'm getting to do something that he didn't get to do and finish what he started in some ways. And I'm very proud of that. And
also Kitty Bruce, who is his daughter, absolutely fucking loves you and embraces you. And we know that she's a tough crowd, but she always used to tell me how much she loves you and how happy you made her personally.
Yeah. No, we're very close. She's become family to me in a way that like, I don't throw on that lightly, She's the fact that they've trusted me with her father. I mean, that's incredible. She's trusted me.
Yeah.
She told me, she said, in all the years, you're the only one who got it right. That's what she told me.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's so true, because I have to say, and we all know that Dustin Hoffman is a great actor. He did not get Lenny Bruce right in that movie. I'm sorry.
Well, you know what?
That is.
I agree.
Especially the scenes of him on stage. Like anyone who had never heard of Lenny Bruce would not go away from that movie thinking that Lenny Bruce was funny, because he's not funny in that movie.
Right. Wow.
You know what? Dustin Hoffman's one of our great actors.
He is. I'm not.
But there's a thing called good casting.
Right.
And that's the bottom line. And I still think he was the right guy. I mean, I think he's fabulous. And you know what? Growing up, I loved the film until I researched Lenny. I went, something about him missing. And I think if you would have had like a young Pacino, in fact, I heard they offered it to Pacino, and he didn't do it.
I think Cliff Gorman from The Play would have been much better.
He was great. I heard.
Cliff
Gorman,
I
didn't see it, but yeah.
Cliff Gorman is better as playing. This is a complicated thing to say, but he's better playing the character based on Dustin Hoffman playing Lenny Bruce in the other Bob Fosse movie, All That Jazz. Cliff Gorman is better than Dustin Hoffman in that movie, I think.
Quite honestly, Frank, I think when you watch Lenny today, what I get out of it now is like, because I still like the film for other reasons, not about Lenny.
Bob Fosse was a brilliant filmmaker. You
learn more about Fosse than you do about Lenny.
Exactly.
You learn more about his filmmaking ways with the shot. And Kitty defended Hoffman and simply said nobody really paid attention to him or gave him a lot of attention on set, or he didn't get. But I still think the casting maybe could have been a little different, But
the other thing to take into account though is that because Dustin Hoffman did the part, that's why the movie got made. The movie wouldn't have gotten made without a star in the part.
Well, he was a star. Yeah. No, he was the hot name at that time. I love that, I love they made a film, and I love that we have a resurgence of Lenny now, and it seems that people want to know him. And Maisel, I'm very grateful to the show.
Yeah, that's a good portrayal too. Yeah.
Well, I'm grateful. They don't give him a lot to do in terms of the depth of like where my show takes you, but what I'm grateful for is that they're talking about Lenny Bruce.
Right.
And I've sold thousands of tickets because of Maisel, and people are like, he's a real person,
Yep, they're keeping him alive. It's so true.
Yeah.
And you're also doing your part by keeping him alive, in a time that's so critical, I think.
It's so great that as an actor, I found the thing that not only do I love performing, I'm lucky that I have this vessel, but that I care so much about it too. And so it's like this wonderful combination of like.
And also people are very interested, obviously, when you're going, to Chicago and you're going to wherever you are, right? And you're bringing the show and it's still selling out, you said, right? Last year?
Yeah, it was selling out all the time in Chicago. And now hopefully we're going to set up a national tour and go sit back down in Chicago. And I hope people still want to hear it. I think a lot of times you have to see in the show, people like when I'm doing the courtroom scenes at the end with the judge, people are like yelling from the audience like in my defense, going, come on. And then you hear all this frustration in the audience, and people come back literally dozens of times, total strangers. My 10th time, my 12th time. It's like this weird, they feel like Lenny is standing up for something that they're not getting to say or something, you know?
And I also love the fact that, you know, like a comic, when we were watching it, I've seen it a few times. When you get up and if you're getting heckled, you retort right away. Like you're like a comic. You don't miss a beat, you go for it, and then you return back to Lenny. Like you are Lenny, you respond as Lenny, and then you get back to what your monologue or whatever you're doing, which is, I think, very important, because you're always going to have interruptions when a piece is that viscerally strong. You know, people have a visceral reaction to it.
Thank you, Irene. People ask me if I'm a comic, and I always say, like, look, I would never disrespect. My understanding about comedy is like you have to go bomb a whole bunch of times before you can call yourself a comic. But I have
right here.
But I have a crush on. I always wanted to do it, and so one night, Mike Marino and a couple other comics asked me to open for them because I was on General Hospital. Like, he'll sell a few tickets. So I came out. I wrote 5 minutes with Wheels Parisi, you know, Wheels. I wrote 5 minutes with Wheels, and he helped me write it. I came out, and I said, hey, and I got a huge laugh on this joke, and I went, oh no! I literally said to the audience, please stop laughing. I don't have time for this. I can't put this in my life. Stop laughing. And they thought that was funny. I'm like, no, I'm actually not kidding. Because I saw it was like a drug right in my vein, the laugh.
That's right. It is.
I was like, I gotta go.
Heroin. It's like fucking heroin. It's almost like a euphemism for Lenny.
It was awful.
Doing stand-up, I joke that I'm still chasing the dragon to this day. It's the one thing that I have been able to commit to.
The laughs I get aren't big enough to call heroin. They're more like cough syrup.
That's funny. No, but I see what the addiction is. Believe me, and I had it happen to me for a moment. I literally was like, I'm not gonna continue it. I was just so worried about needing to chase that. But I do have it in me. I think it's an instinctual thing, and I think
I don't think you could have played Lenny without a little bit of that in you.
Exactly. That's what I was just going to say. You know, I think you need that, your rhythm, your cadence. You need to sort of inject that when you're playing Lenny. We are running out of damn time again. This has gone by fast. I just want to commend Mr. Conniff on recommending Zoom, Frank. I think this is so much better. What about you?
Yeah, but Zoom just works for everybody. So
it works for everyone. Ronnie, tell us where we can find you. What's going on in the world of Ronnie Marmo?
Well, my theater company, Theater 68, we're about to do it's about a 1 year, 1-act series, a new play every 2 weeks that we wrote as a company over Zoom for a year. So we'll project that out on, so they're 10-minute 1-act plays. So check out Theater 68 if you can. Very proud of that. I'm the artistic director of the whole festival. Wow. And then on a personal note, you could just, go to lennybruceonstage.com and look for what's to come. Hopefully Chicago in October, hopefully New Jersey in September. And I don't know, I'm just going to keep plugging along and trying to save money from my children in therapy, because this is where
you're going to need it.
So, I already need
more than $20, Frank.
No, $20. I don't know where you're going.
Calling therapy, sweetie.
That's why I'm so fucked up. I get therapy.
Well, that's called $20. That's like a bottle of whatever. That's only therapy you have. You can buy a bottle with that. But so that's what's going on. I'm always active and grateful, and I appreciate you guys having me on and thinking about me. So that's
great.
Yeah, that's so great.
Thank you.
Always.
So much for coming, sweetie. We love you. Thank you for being here. We'll have you back on again. Mr. Conniff, anything that you want to plug before we go?
Next Tuesday night will be the next live movie riffing show that Trace Blue, you and I are doing.
So much fun.
Apocalyptic movie, The Lost Missile from 1958. If you want to see,
like my husband's penis. Keep going. Sorry.
If you want to see a low budget movie where Ottawa gets destroyed, this is the movie for you. So that's next. Go to eventbrite.com for the Mads, and it's only $10, and check it out.
Oh, you won't regret it. I love it, and I can't wait to get back in the seat and watch you live when you're riffing.
Yeah.
I have a show. I'm actually headlining the Brokerage on June 11th at 8 p.m. and also co-headlining with Carmen Lynch at the Candlelight Theater on June 17th, 8 p.m. in Delaware. And that's about it. So we have another great show next week, so tune in for See You Next Tuesday. Oh, I'm sorry, that I'm using her title. Thank you so much for being here, Ronnie Frank. You know how much I love you, and we'll see you next week. Mwah!
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Mother May I podcast with Frank and Irene on Strong Island Entertainment. Check us out next week when Frank and Irene sit down with, you know what? I don't know what these two are going to do next, but we'll see you next week.